So, all right, Lauren, first, could you tell me what your position is at the company
Yeah, I'm the VP of marketing.
and how long have you been with American Giant?
I've been with American Giant for 7 years.
And where did you start?
I started as a creative director, so I came in just running the creative teams, so all the graphic designers, photographers, copy, and then grew from there to kind of a broader marketing role where I run more of like, what's our go-to-market? How do we bring products? How do we connect our brand stories and our product stories and bring them to life for our customers?
Awesome. All right. And it sounds like you are going to be perfectly qualified to answer several of these questions then. So I'm glad they put me with the right person. So Lauren, what is it about the American Giant business model that makes it unique from most lines of clothing marketed to Americans?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. All of our clothes are made here in the USA. And I think, one of the things that happened over the last 40 so years is that textiles were kind of the first thing to move offshore. It's just there's no barrier to that. Like you set up a sewing machine, lots of people know how to sew. And the textile industry in the US just got fully decimated. I mean, I think it was 40 years ago. The statistic is 95% of all the clothes that we bought in the US were made here, and today it's only about 3%. And so, when we started the company and still today, like we choose to make here, that's like our fundamental kind of baseline belief, and everything we do gets filtered through that. So we're just really about investing in domestic manufacturing. We're looking into lean manufacturing, continuous improvement, and we just want to, we believe we know more about this than any other apparel brand in the country. There's no other brands doing it like this at scale.
Awesome. I'm really excited to hear your perspective as someone in the marketing department for this question. Your websites and advertisements feature stories of individuals from multiple walks of life, including the people behind various parts of your supply chain. Why does your company highlight these people rather than lean on like traditional celebrity endorsements like a lot of clothing brands and shoe brands tend to do?
Yeah. We think the men and the women who make our stuff are truly amazing. They all have stories worth telling. And we think it's really important to connect our customers back to those people, the people who are making the stuff that they're wearing. And we just think for us, it's really fascinating. And there's something really good about bringing those stories to life.
How do you measure success when you do advertising like that? And if so, has that been successful in terms of your advertising? Because I don't see any other companies doing that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy metric. There's no KPI for saying like, okay, you put this, Jane who sews our sweater into an email or on our social channels. There's no easy way to measure that. But we do know that it's just like to the customers who are paying attention, to the ones that like really sign up for who we are and what we're doing, that like it matters to them, and they're sharing those stories, they're applauding those stories, and for us, you can feel the impact that it's having.
And what is it like for them, I guess, when you get to interact with those members of your supply chain? How does it affect how they service your company?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think the times that I've interacted, I've had a couple opportunities to go like on a tour of our facilities, and a lot of people in our company are like deeply ingrained and connected, but on the marketing, I'm not as often. But I think they just really I think they get excited about it, honestly. Like when we see like comments, like someone would say like, "Oh, hey, that's my mom." Like you're shouting out my mom on Instagram, or they're just proud of the people that are doing that work. And so I think they're able to kind of show a pride in themselves as well. And it's like very rewarding in that way.
Yeah. Thank you. So all that a company technically has to do in the American capitalist society is generate a profit and satisfy its end up in the black at the end of the year. What is it that American Giant does as a company to improve things for the people and places around it beyond just that bare minimum to be considered successful? What is it that your company does either through its business model or beyond that in terms of its goals?
Yeah, I mean, that one for us, again, it's like tied back to our manufacturing and our choice to make here. And, we truly believe that like in a healthy economy, has, you know, vibrancy at all layers, right? In terms of like service, manufacturing, finance, people with higher education, and we need to function across all of those. And I think, you know, we're seeing and have seen that across the country, like in urban and rural centers, like a lot of those entry level jobs outside of like fast food or Walmart, like those are just, they're disappearing. And that's resulted in not great things for those communities. And so we're doing that, like as simple as that. Like in every job we help create, we're injecting more than just a job. We're correct, like we're helping them create viable career paths. So like there's good training and development, and you know, that's not just like in our factories where we cut and sew the actual garments, but it ripples out through the whole supply chain. So our yarners, the people who weave and knit the fabrics, the farming, the ginning, it just has an echo effect kind of that's really important across all those places.
Yeah. So you may have partially just answered part of my next question, which is, so it's no secret that there are cheaper clothing options available to American consumers. I could go to
Mhm.
Walmart and buy 3 t-shirts from Nicaragua that were, you know, shipped overseas and sent here for the price of a t-shirt from your company. But when people pay more for products from that they get from American Giant, what benefits are they getting from it?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, obviously there's a lot of layers to that one as well. I think, you know, we want to compete on quality, like we offer great value for great quality clothes. But on top of that, as a consumer, you really have only a few opportunities to kind of let your values be known, whether it's like in the ballot when you're voting or where you're spending your dollars with your wallet. And if you truly care about causes, like the things that you're buying, they're kind of an important statement of who you are and what you believe in. You know, in this country, we've spent the last, like I said, 40 or so years, like, you know, as a country, voting and putting effect laws that are human right laws, environmental protections, worker safety. And those are all really good things that we all generally believe are good things and vote into law. But on the flip side, unfortunately, we let all these big other apparel brands, we call it big apparel, that's our name for it.
Mhm.
We let all of them make tons and tons of money by like avoiding those said values. So they're taking their production to places that don't have those environmental standards. And so that's just an example of kind of, you know, we make clothes that align with our values. And if that resonates with you as a customer, like you'll support brands like that, you know. Like you said, like there's really popular brands like Shein, you know, you can get a t-shirt for $3, and that has its own value for a certain consumer. It doesn't necessarily represent what we stand for as a country and kind of how we think people should be treated and how we want to treat the environment. But as a consumer, you get a chance to weigh in and say, like, with my dollars, like, what am I choosing to support and what am I choosing to stand with?
Could you drill down to some specific examples of, being that I am a consumer and I have voted with many of my dollars to your company,
Mhm.
what are some of the specific examples of environmental standards and the way that you treat people that is unique to your company or more unique to your values?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't get into like all the specifics of the laws. That's definitely not my area of expertise. But I will just say that like the US has a certain set of kind of like you know, water usage standards, pesticide usage, minimum wage laws, worker safety, that just like by default doing work here in the US, you're already competing and at a different level than a lot of other countries where they don't have laws that are enforcing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And this may or may not be within your areas of expertise. This was something I guess I heard relatively recently, but when we see something that says like made in the USA, oftentimes that doesn't mean that the 100% of the manufacturing process took place in the USA. So your company, 100% of the process from supply chain to completion does take place in the United States of America. So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's just having those standards that are 100% involved in the production of your products puts it a cut above the irresponsibility that we don't have that accountability for when things are shipped overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. So like pollution standards for factories. Like that's not happening in the US where they may be in other countries. So like the way the cotton's farmed, everything kind of like all the way through. And yeah, I think yeah, it just is like it's a standard level that you have to operate above. That's not happening across.
Which also partially answers my next question, which I guess is the sister question to, you gave me some of those benefits of what your company does by having those things in the United States. I feel like there are a lot of hidden costs in different industries, such as when you go and buy cheap fast food, it doesn't cost much money, but the hidden cost is the health benefit, or the damage to our health
Hmm.
when we live off of food that is cheap. What are some of the hidden costs on an individual or national, international level when consumers buy cheap clothing to save short-term money?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on a little bit, right? It gets back to kind of like you know, there's an inherent value we have all you have we have voted as a country to say like, okay, this person who gets up every day and is sewing clothes day in and day out, that they're worth a certain amount in terms of the way we pay them, the way that the factory is set up like for safety. And when that's not happening against countries like Yangjin in China is like a great example of kind of like of how an extreme example of like how where that is affecting the people who are making your stuff. And we're so disconnected from that. Like people just things come in on all these freighters coming offshore. I mean, there's a ton of like waste in that fast fashion industry as well. And so I think there's just like a number of things that are hitting that people don't really think, when they're buying those cheap clothes, like it's not really cheap. There's a lot of, like you said, hidden costs.
And ultimately, we all live on the same planet. So
Yeah.
when when we vote with our dollars for what is short-term cheap, we are often undercutting ourselves in the long run because of those things, right?
Yeah.
How has American Giant evolved over the last decade, 7 years of which I've certainly been buying clothing and you've been working there? How has it evolved as a company, and what ways is it looking to improve for the future?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just genuinely like I think we're just really obsessed about doing manufacturing domestically like better and better. And so whether it's reinvesting in specific processes that haven't been done before, like I'm sure you saw the yarn dyed flannel where like people said it couldn't be done, and we're the people saying, okay, actually no, we think we know people here, we believe it can be done. And so we're constantly looking to do more and to be better there because we know there's always more that can be done. And so the things we're kind of focused on the future is working towards being a leader in lean manufacturing, continuous improvement. We're just honestly pushing to be better and better, and hope to be an inspiration to people as we continue.
Which leads right into my last question. So I'm confused about why is American Giant like unique at this point of like you've been a successful company by capitalist standards. Why is it still so rare? Why have other people not, especially in times when shipping costs have increased and in the last couple of years, realizing the vulnerability of our supply chain? Why is it that as it exists as a proof of concept, right? That this sort of business model works. Why do you think other companies have not taken notes, and what is it that we can do as a society to improve that? Obviously, buying your products is great, but what else could we do, especially being that you have an audience of young people that are going to hear from this? What can we do as a society to get more, not necessarily just in the textile industry, but businesses in general, to take those cues?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think you have to consider, the trade policy that's gone into effect, the increased emphasis on kind of capital gains, capital markets, and just like the relentless focus on returns to shareholders. So, everyone's looking for how to save cents on the dollar. And I think there's overwhelmingly a sense of just like our ability to make things in the US has declined, and people think you can't do it here anymore. And that's not true. Like you said, we're proof of concept that it can be done and that it is a viable business. But I think it just requires, like, whether it's a brand, whether it's people, individual people, policymakers, it just requires people to stand up and say, okay, this is the right thing. We should be doing this. And, we've shown that we're trying to be an example there. Like, we really hope to inspire other companies and other brands. And, for us, I would just say, yeah, for anyone, that's listening, the class that's listening, I think it's just about continuing to like share that message and be a voice for what we truly believe in and where your values are. And just, we hope that's our impact. We're truly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Is there anything else off the top of your head that you think people should know, or misconceptions that people have about your brand?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't think to be honest, you asked really great questions. When I read through it, I was like, wow, these are all really impactful things, and kind of get at the heart at why we do what we do. I think a lot of times we get we get comments about, the price of a t-shirt, or, the cost of our CFC, and how that's it's gone up over time. And that's a reflection of us, like, trying to continue to be that success story and say, okay, we're making things here, but it's at a cost, and we want you to come along that journey with us and, like, spend your money, and this is where it's going to, and this is where it's giving back to. So I think, in general, I think people just have to understand that there's a value in everything, right? For some people, there's a value in a $3 t-shirt. And for other people's, it's more about kind of like what that t-shirt stands for, or how it's made. And I think just having that conversation and continuing for people to, like, ask those questions, I think is really important.
All right. Thank you so much.